What's up, everyone? Welcome to the pilot debut mRNA podcast, working title, meaning Music Review Nerd Acumen. If you know anything about science, it's clever. mRNA, you get it?
Yeah, pretty clever.
He gets it. We got one person getting it. That's all that matters. Again, welcome to the show. I'm here with Staple Gun, a.k.a. Justin, a.k.a. a dude I've known for over 20 years. And I'm calling you a dude I've known. Is that appropriate? Is that formal? Is that fitting?
Yes, I mean, it's kind of low bar, but I'll take it.
All right. He'll take it. So, you like the cardboard cutouts? Yes, indeed. We have guests with us besides Staple Gun. We have two members of the band The Offspring. Can you believe it? They're wearing masks, though, because social distancing and we're being safe here in the studio. And they're going to perform for us. To get them to perform, all you got to do is redeem 1,000 strands. There is a strand redemption called Let the Good Times Roll. Or the Bad Times Roll, excuse me. I'm making an error already. Ouch. Ouch. And I listened to this album like 30 times over the past few days. Anyways, welcome to the Music Review Podcast, a reoccurring segment for DNA every 3 weeks where we take, as of right now, a brand new album. Depending on how this goes forward, it might be new albums, it might be favorite albums, it might be albums we just absolutely hate. It could end up being albums that we end up hating or loving. We don't know yet because this is a brand new venture and you guys are witnessing the very first episode of it. Justin, you want to give a little backstory on yourself, why you're here, and anything you want to share?
Sure. So for me, I guess I've been listening to Offspring since I was in elementary school. It was actually one of the first albums I got was Americana of The Offspring. So I got that with Nimrod from Green Day. And also that was when Chumbawamba was hitting the scene.
Chumbawamba.
So that's when I kind of first got into rock and roll. And my kind of getting used to pop punk, and it was a whole new genre for me. And my first exposure to it, and I really kind of haven't gone back since. There's a lot of different types of music that I like, but that's the one I definitely go back to the most, is that pop punk emo from the 90s and 2000s. So I remember when I first got the CD, I don't know if you remember the CD for Americana, but it had like a cigarette and that was being put out on the disc.
Yes.
And opening it and seeing that and thinking, oh, can't let my parents see this because they're going to take it away immediately, because I was in like 5th grade or 6th grade. Yeah, they've been a band that's been on my all-time list for a long time, and I've never been able to see them in concert, unfortunately, but they're definitely on my bucket list of bands.
You know, now that you say that, I don't think I've seen them in concert either. I find that kind of surprising. Like, I feel like it's one that would have been more accessible, as I don't think... There have probably been various points in their career, but they've been probably a more affordable band to go see.
Yeah.
So I'm just shocked we haven't come across them, whether it be Warped Tour or anything. That's kind of strange.
I know. There was a time at Riot Fest a couple of years ago, but the day that they were playing, I wasn't able to make it. So,
of course.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they show up in 2021 now, especially with them releasing a new album. And it sounds like Riot Fest is back on, at least in Chicago this year. They've announced just a couple days ago.
Now, is that July or August? Or is that September, actually?
September,
yeah.
So I initially bought them in 2020, and then the tour got canceled, obviously. And then they postponed it to 2021. The big draw was My Chemical Romance, which I also haven't seen. And they're not doing any shows till 2022. So now I was going
to say, what a time to return for My Chemical Romance, just for all this to happen.
Yeah.
What a bummer. I actually had the privilege of seeing MCR. They were opening act in 2005 for Green Day. And they put on a hell of a show. But this is like early MCR too. This is when they had I'm Not Okay, I Promise. Like, that was the big hit, and that was it. So like they were just hitting the scene. They hadn't gone on to do the Black Parade, which incredible album, but we're not speaking of that tonight. Yeah. But like musically, they're great live. And even for that first album, their live performances were exaggerated. They would just go off on guitar solos because they were just gifted guitar players in that band.
Right.
Anyways, So for myself, a little bit of background on the Offspring. For me, the earliest memory was like Self-Esteem back in 94. And a lot of the memory was comparing them to Green Day and their Dookie album that had released around the same time. I was about in fourth grade. I had my Sony Walkman, so I had a cassette. Dookie ended up being my first compact disc CD for the kids. So a lot of it was just like playground talk. You remember those big cement like tubes? Like I don't know what technically they're called, but they're like big cement cylinder tubes that you can just sit in on the playgrounds.
Oh.
So we would hide in those or would sit on top of those. That was like the cool kids. Probably not, but that's what we called it, the cool kids spot. And we would just exchange talking about music. So it goes back to the early days like that, exchanging music ideas. One of the reasons, too, to segue into why you're going to be the reoccurring, other half of this show is because you and I go back, like I said, that 20 years. You may think about, if you know mine and Justin's friendship here, you may think about Halo 3 and video games and just like movies and hanging out. But really our bond originated in band. We were both band geeks. We both love music. And then we were both of that crowd that just kind of got into the pop punk scene real heavily. So we immediately bonded over, stuff like that. And then, of course, being original pranksters, if you will, pranking other people at places like band camp. There's one memory. Should we even share it on air?
That's on you.
And you know what I'm going to as well. Maybe we'll save that for another day as we dive deeper into this, because that's, yeah. There's a lot of history, let's say, between myself and Justin here and things we've done. We're good people, I swear, but we could be classified as a bully. An original prankster for sure, though. And if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm talking about the Offspring. We're talking about the Offspring tonight, and we're going to review Let the Bad Times Roll, not the Good Times, because that's a different song and a different slogan. But the Let the Bad Times Roll was an album that released April 16th, 2021. So just 4 days ago. And I already mentioned I probably listened to this album a good 20 plus times, 30 times maybe over the weekend, just to really kind of sink my teeth into it. One thing before we dive into things, what I want to do, and we don't have to answer and we shouldn't answer, but I want to have a segment in the beginning of our shows where we try to guess what each other's maybe score or thoughts of the album are, but not answer until obviously we give our overall at the end of the show, just to see how on point or how well after 20 years that we know each other. So this is the challenge. This is like that newlywed game, but this is like longtime friend game. Who wants to go first?
Your prediction.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. With knowing your style, and really without diving deep into a review of the album myself, with knowing your interests, I would say overall, you're going to lean towards liking to loving this album for over half of it. There's going to be things that you pick apart, things that you find maybe, again, I don't want to dive too deep in it. I would say you're going to give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think you really liked it, but you didn't love it. It's something that you will probably have grow on you, and there's a few standout tracks that you're really going to say you adore and we'll go back to on repeat.
Okay.
And again, you don't have to answer. So.
Right. No, I'll hold off.
Okay.
So I would say you're probably, 20 times. I listened to this quite a bit. I wouldn't say 20 times.
It's a short album.
So, it is, yep. But I would say since you've listened to it about 20 times, that kind of gives me a little context or clue in. So I'm going to guess that you, based on musical style, I'm going to say you're going to give it an 8.
Okay. Interesting.
But solid guess, not this 7, 8 wishy-washy stuff that you're doing.
Okay. Fair enough. So the album was produced by Bob Rock, a notorious person in the industry. If you don't know, look up his resume of work. It's the band's first release on Concord Records, their first studio album in almost 9 years, which is incredible. One of the things we're going to speak on, there was a single that released in 2015 for this album, that is on this album, but many things would cause the gap. Many things would cause this delay. Obviously, a pandemic did not help. The end of contract with Columbia did not help. Their touring, their schedules, and again, the pandemic, all those things caused this delay and gap. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Sometimes delays can harm a band. It can also help to maybe bring back something that was missing or focus in on something. A little bit of notes here. April 21st, 2020, the band released a rock cover of Joe Exotic's country song, Here Kitty Kitty. And I just discovered that recently. And that is not on this album, but all I'm going to say is watch the music video.
Interesting.
Because this actually, that's where these cardboard cutouts, as Locke so eloquently put it, are from. So that is an acoustic performance of that very song. And I just cut them out. It was fun. On February 23rd, 2021, the Offspring announced Let the Bad Times Roll as the title of their 10th studio album here, as well as its artwork, release date, and track listing. The album's title track was released as a single on the same day. 12 tracks in total, 33 minutes, 21 seconds in length. Let's dive into this thing, shall we?
Do it.
Our first track here, This Is Not Utopia. 2 minutes, 38 seconds. Do you want to kick us off with your thoughts?
Sure. Did we want to go over a history of the band, or can I go over that after our album review?
Wherever you feel is necessary. If you want to dive in right now, let's do that before we kick into the actual album.
Sure. So I just kind of did just a check on the discography here. So their first album came out in 1989. So for those that aren't familiar, which sounds a long time ago because it was a long time ago. So it was a self-titled album, and it was through Nemesis. And then Ignition they released in 1992. Kick 'Em When He's Down was a single from that. Again, I wasn't even too familiar with that. And then 1994 was Smash through Epitaph, and that was their real breakout. That was kind of came out when Dookie came out.
Now that's a notoriously known punk record label.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Yeah, so that was huge for them. Come Out and Play, Self-Esteem, Bad Habit were the singles from that. Then in 1997, they made their deal with Columbia, as you mentioned about them going through that transition. They had Ixnay on the Ombre, 1997. I Have All I Want, which is notorious from people who played the game Crazy Taxi.
Yes.
Going back to the. So if you don't think of Crazy Taxi immediately when you hear that song, then I don't know what to tell you.
You texted me on that too, and it blew my mind that I overlooked that, because that is the track for anyone that's ever played Crazy Taxi. That is the standout song from that game, and it's probably intentionally put one of the first quarters that you put in the arcade or the home game when it comes on.
Yeah, it got you in the zone. It made you want to go pick people up, drop them off, drive crazy. So I mean, it was a great track from that album. Then 1998, Americana, Pretty Fly for a White Guy. Everyone knows that song. Why Don't You Get a Job? Kids Aren't All Right. She's Got Issues. No Brakes. A lot of songs from that. No Brakes also appeared in one of the later Crazy Taxi games. And then they also had some songs in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4.
Can we talk about that period of time for them? We mentioned punk a lot. We mentioned pop punk. We didn't mention grunge from the 90s. So they came onto the scene just before the rise and at the time of the rise of bands like Nirvana. So grunge rock, or this kind of, I don't even know how else to classify it other than grunge or alternative. If you look back at Dexter, who's the singer, he had almost braided dreads. It wasn't quite dreads, but they were like braids, long braids, and very grunge style influence for his look. And then even their sound, they stood out very uniquely. But then as you venture into this era that I wanted to touch on of your video games, right? So they're on video game soundtracks. They're mainstream. They're pop punk here. They are venturing into that world of Blink-182 at the time, where it wasn't serious songs. They went from kind of topical stuff into kind of topical still, but fun and borderline offensive, right? They wanted that catchy hook. They wanted to be appealing to, you know, the demographic, you're 14 to 21. And they were getting that audience because that was us. We were consuming it. And that to me, the reason I wanted to highlight that period of time, that was the very last time I was in to the Offspring. I couldn't miss a thing they were putting out. I was going to the record store and buying their CD. That was the last era. Not that I disliked them, but it was the last time that I felt they appealed to what I was interested in. So
I can agree with that. No, definitely. So with that, so after Americana, they had a Conspiracy of One in 2000 that had original Prankster on it, as your jokes do. All them jokes. And then they had Want You Bad, and that is kind of notorious with American Pie.
yes.
So again, it's kind of right in that year 2000, getting that younger audience. Put your song in American Pie, that'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Million Miles Away was another single from that. That was also with Columbia. Then they had Splinter with Columbia. I'll admit that's kind of when I started to stray from them, when they had Hit That, where it was just...
That was the last one.
Yeah. That was just kind of a weird beat and kind of a funky pop sound, and I just was not really into it. But then they had, from that album, they also had Can't Get My Head Around You, which is a song that I really like. So overall, that album was a miss for me. So that was through Columbia. And then they had Rise and Fall, Raging Grace through Columbia in 2008 after Splinter. They had Hammerhead, You're Gonna Go Far, Kid, Christy, Are You Doing Okay? So they had some kind of slower songs. Then they had some other good hits like You're Gonna Go Far, Kid, which is like an all-time track for them. And then, in 2012, they had Days Go By. And so from that, they had Days Go By, which was a single, Cruising California, Bumping in My Truck, which is, I'm sorry, just an awful song. It's it's really weird for the Offspring. And then Turning Into You was the other one. And that's really like the only single I kind of really enjoyed from that album, from Days Go By. So that, that was back in 2012. And then obviously
nothing.
Now they finally put something out. So there's a big gap in there. And I was just kind of hoping we wouldn't get more of the Days Go By and Splinter type of stuff.
Here's the question. Did we? I guess let's find out. Chat, they're speaking on Sam Goody and Harmony House, and they're telling us to go to bed because we said record store. I mean, that's, this is before iTunes. Like, we had to go to, was it Believe in Music? Remember that in the Rogers Plaza?
Yep.
That was the place.
Yeah.
I skipped so many classes on Tuesdays to go get the new albums of things. And look where it's brought me. Bravo, bravo. So chat, one thing I want to point out to you guys, I want one person that has 1,000 strands to redeem for Let the Bad Times Roll so we can officially kick this thing into gear. So somebody jump in there and redeem that. I'll patiently, aggressively wait for that redeem to come through. Because I know there is a delay in chat and what we're saying.
You're not the boss of me.
I'm not the boss of you. Thank you, Locke, for doing that. So we have a little sound alert just for tonight. Tonight only. I figured it'd be fun to have just a few second clip of the title track from the album. Let's kick things off. This is Not Utopia. 2 minutes, 38 seconds. J-Man, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're kind of dipping their toes into politics, but not really fully committing in this song. It's a good, catchy song, good beat. They kind of rhyme America and hysteria. I like the overall message, but I feel like they've never been a big political band, and now they're kind of just slightly dabbling with it with the song. So overall, I like the song. I like the sound. I like how, but overall, like the lyrics just aren't that deep for me. I feel like they're trying, but they don't want to go all in and become a huge political band.
Yeah, they definitely brush the surface, and I don't want to dive too deep into the album as a whole, but already that first track, I mean, you're right on point there with my sentiment as well. They're playing with an idea, but they're not like really saying this is our stance. They're kind of just trying to keep it PC, if I can say that. Like, but they are, though. They're being safe with their approach. The way I described the sound was a 90s aggressive punk grunge styling to open the album, so big energy with a mid-2000s pop punk influence of bands that reminded me of like Story of the Year, kind of. Good opening with fast pacing, and it has obviously a hook in the chorus to get you involved. I did also mention a political song with loose theming around it, not signifying or singling anything out besides violence, really, in this track. So is it a topic on the violence of the past year? When was this song written? Because there's a gap, right? So it could mean so many things, and they're not putting their finger on the one, So it's really open to interpretation.
Yeah. Overall, like I said, I enjoyed the song, but it's a good way to start off the album, like you said, kind of high energy. But overall, they just didn't fully commit to the message of the song.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe because it was just 2.5 minutes long. Like, could you have used more time? It was just... It was, I don't want to say childish, but it was, for a career that they've had, spanning how long they've had, you and I, like, could have written lyrics that deep in a weekend to touch on a topic. If we had to, like, if that was our job and we had to come up with something. I'm not saying it's easy to be in a band and write songs. It's not. But I feel if we were given a task to come up with a poem even that had a hook, we could have created something on that potential level. It's not deep. It could be better. It doesn't deliver something truly home. It wasn't a bad track. Again, it gets the energy off of the, going for the album, and it really just kind of gets you in the mood, and you're like, this is Offspring. Okay, I know this is Offspring. I get it. It makes sense.
Nothing bizarre, nothing too weird. It's just kind of a good driving track to get you back into it.
Yeah, it's a good intro. It's not like a weird, like 4 or 5 minute intro with like sound effects and, it's not Limp Bizkit and Chocolate Starfish. None of that nonsense. Mikey would kill me if I was dissing on that because we all listened to that album back then. A little too much, probably. Do we have anything else to say on the first track? I mean, 2.5 minutes, there's really not much to dive into.
Yeah, that's all I've got for that.
Okay. So the title track, our second track, we're going to really kick things off here. Let the Bad Times Roll. 3 minutes, 18 seconds. I'm going to kick it over back to you. We'll keep this ping pong action going.
Sure. So, again, it felt like very similar to the first song as far as not quite committing to the politics. They have a line in there about lock her up. And, it's a good catchy song to put as a single, Let the Bad Times Roll. And I think everyone is relating to that with, being in the pandemic and finally light at the end of the tunnel. So again, it was a good Offspring single track. I can see why they picked it. But it was not one of my top 3 from the album overall, but I enjoy it. But it was just kind of similar to the first one, except with a catchier hook, I would say, and more single appropriate.
Yes, obviously in length, you want your single around 3 minutes. That's been set the standard since after the Beatles, as far as a good appropriate radio single. I want to address chat real quick. They're talking about doubling with alerts. I still got to get that sorted out. Accessibility is a thing, though. That's why AC/DC and Offspring have enjoyed the staying power they have. I don't disagree with that. You have a sound and people recognize you for that sound. Why deviate from it? I think there is a certain extent and appropriateness to stay within a comfort zone because sometimes experimentation can backfire. So,
yeah, it has for them.
Yes.
So it's not one where I went, oh, this is a bad song. It's a good single overall. But overall with the album, there are some better songs on there that I enjoyed a lot more. But I see why they picked it as a single.
So for myself on that, I agree with the reasoning of her single. It fits the everything that you would check on a checklist of single-worthy structure. Another aggressive, fast-paced punk track with a catchy chorus. So adding to your sentiment immediately, I agree. It's when I emphasize another, I'm meaning the first song and now the second. There's really not much of a difference. Early 2000s feel again with bands. It reminded me of Yellow Card here on this one. So some of their stuff, if you're familiar with their work, there were certain flavors of Yellow Card, not quite on that level because they have their own unique sound as well. But it just reminded me of that era. It immediately brought me back. So, a very good track and fitting of the album title and single. More political content and lyrics like, "Oh baby, let the..." I'm not going to sing it, but I'm going to read it like as best I can. "Oh baby, let the bad times roll on a stripper pole. Oh, 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 oh." That's terrible. "Yeah, F it." He says a bad word here. So, radio, but they'll censor it. "Let the bad times roll." More oh, 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 ohs. Again, very popular in 2000s, late 90s. F it, F it. Then he goes into Mexicans and blacks and Jews, got it all figured out for you. Gonna build a wall, let you decide apathy or suicide. Oh baby, let the bad times roll. He even asks in the song, "Hey Lincoln, how does your grave roll?" So yes, we're continuing with political stuff here. So
Yep.
Interesting approach. We've seen bands do it well before. We've seen bands probably shouldn't touch the subject matter. I don't want to say leave it to the experts, but like at this point in their career, I mean, I guess everyone touches on politics at some point. Green Day did it. It's one of their most successful albums to date. System of a Down was, I mean, notorious for that Rage Against the Machine. You're just venturing away from pop punk and into straight up punk with the lyrical content of this, but not being as edgy because you're not really addressing a topic head on. So like, to me, that was weird. Again.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's just kind of starting to, put a couple lyrics in there alluding to it. It's not a call for action. It's not we need to fix this. It's just, yeah, things are bad right now. Let's sing about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I can say there's a video for it. Go check out the video. It's a good single. It fits the theme of the album, and we'll dive more. As you can see, 2 tracks in, there is a theme being, pressed here. We venture then into our third track, called, Behind Your Walls, clocking in at 3:21. I'll kick it over to you on that.
Sure. Behind Your Walls, this one, I would say it started off kind of slow. It has a slow build-up, but it was a nice kind of reprieve from the first two because it starts off slower and then it kind of kicks it into gear. Lyrically, I think this one is probably one of my favorites from the album. I felt as though the lyrics were kind of relatable. For me, when I was listening to the song, I was just thinking of with some of the things that they reference keep saying behind your walls of pain. Mm-hmm. Suffering, so that could be with the pandemic or with different things that they've got going on in their life. And for me, it made me think of people who are kind of caught up in politics or conspiracy theories right now that get really heavy into it, and you can kind of see that there's what can I say to help you. Just lyrically, I really related with this song. I thought it was really, really good. And if you've had any friends that have been through struggles where you just kind of wanted to find the right thing to say to try to help them, this song really kind of spoke to that. So this was one of my top 3 from the album. I really enjoyed this one.
Going to kick over to chat real quick. Redbeard says, "Let's all remember a Metallica sadness." Batman says, "Like the first track, I too thought this was a good single, but I enjoyed the first more." Locke regarding the audio should be fixed now. I don't know what's going on there. Redbeard again says, "I mean, there were several Rock Against Bush albums put out." Facts. I mean, that was that 8 years, more notably in the second term, there was a lot of musical content put out against Bush and various political things around that time period. A lot of good music came out around then too. So if anything, good.
Like anti-flag, kind of that stuff coming out.
Right. Like it ignited a fire under so many people to put out like really personal and emotional albums. So that was great. Redbeard also says Green Day got entirely too much mileage out of American Idiot. I mean, if you were to go see them today, they're probably closing with a song off that album still, or they're kicking off the show with it because they just want to get it done with. That's generally going to be probably their biggest charting album to date, I would say. I can't imagine another album charting higher than American Idiot for them.
No.
Even though there were better albums than that.
Yes.
It's not a bad album, but there were better albums. Locke says, you're no longer doubling, so that's a good sign. We're fixing things on the fly. That's what we do. Locke says, it was a good album, but it was also overplayed to high hell. Anything that has a hook and they can just like squeeze every last little bit out of it, they're going to. Look at, oh my God, what was that band in the, 2004? Hoobastank. The Reason. That made me hate that band. And I loved Hoobastank so much. So much.
That's how I feel about Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I cannot hear that song anymore.
It became too much.
It's too much.
It was always on something. You go to like the mall, it's playing overhead there. And it was on my Zanga.
It's slow and depressing, and I mean it's a good song, but it's one of those like, okay, I've heard this too many times. Let's move on. Yeah, it was a lot. Redbeard also says, I meant they put out a bullet in a Bible and another plus DVD. They did, yeah. They were milking that. Warning was their best. I don't know. That's a topic for another day. What is the best Green Day album? That's a topic for another day. Dookie outsold American Idiot. Probably just because of how long it's been out, I would say. And if you bought American Idiot, you went back and bought Dookie. Yeah, that's probably true.
I don't know.
That's check out.
We're here for the Offspring, though. This is not the playground debate I had back in '94 on who was better, the Offspring or Green Day, because that was the weekly debate with a few of my friends, and I leaned towards Green Day. But here we are doing the Offspring instead. So who really won in the long run? And who's been in and out of rehab as the Offspring? I don't know. Behind Your Walls. To me, it was a much-needed slowdown track. After two aggressive beats of the first two, this finally kind of... It's one of those things. Did you run? I don't remember. What did you run in high school? Were you a runner?
No.
Okay. Because you did tennis for...
Baseball.
I'm trying to think what else you did. You just played tennis with me. You didn't actually play in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a long time ago, man. The example I'm trying to get to is I ran cross country for the first 2 years of high school. And the comparison I make here is a lot of people in a 5K, you're going to think you want to get out in front of everybody out the gate. So you start off aggressive, right? But then you get into a groove. You kind of slow down and maintain your pace and your breathing and get everything because you have a long run to make. And then you build back up towards the finish. And depending on the terrain, you adjust. But that's the comparison I make here. We just shot out the barrel real quick, some aggressive songs. Now we need to kind of like relax into the album. And it's appropriate where this came into place. He also lowered his tone of voice for this track, which kind of took me back for a second. Like the deep lyrics, as you mentioned, and the tone, it reminded me of when Newfound Glory did that years ago. When he brought it down, they slowed it down, had a little bit more ballads in their work, a little bit more serious. Because if you don't know anything about Newfound Glory, they started out as a cover act, and then they were straight into pop punk, like kind of like American Pie soundtrack style song, like anything you expect. Another example on that. This reminded me of that adjustment. We're getting something not expected finally from the Offspring here, and something of quality. So when a notoriously high-pitched vocalist changes style, it just catches you off guard. It picks up in the chorus, though, which makes for a really decent upbeat ballad. Has a darker tone dealing with depression, anxiety, anger, and questioning someone voiced by the vocalist. And the layers of the vocals really do add depth to this. And, for like yourself, many of us can relate to, personal issues or people that have personal issues that they're dealing with or have dealt with, or people we've even, unfortunately lost in life. So we like some of these kind of songs hit harder for some people than others. It's one of those that you shouldn't overlook at all, and you might not relate to it, but just kind of have that perspective. Like, this is that deep song, and there's a lot of connection there for some people. So I think it's a fantastic track.
Yeah.
Our next one, Army of One. Immediately I thought of Bjork. I don't know if you did.
No.
Sucker Punch soundtrack, I think it was the song on there, Army of One. 3 minutes, 11 seconds. Let's hear where you got on this one.
So this for me felt like a really good throwback song. It also kind of felt like it was like anti Behind Your Walls type of anthem, as far as, not like let me get back there. It's kind of shifting the perspective to the person who's kind of going through the things, going through the darkness or the issues, and just kind of becoming, lyrically about becoming an army of one, kind of counting on yourself, doing what you can to push through everything. So again, it was really fast driving song. I really like this, especially its placement in the album after Behind Your Walls. For me, I really like this one as well. And the only thing that was kind of different from the lyrically with the other tracks that kind of hit on the same stuff was it kind of dealt with grief a little bit more, which obviously people can relate to from the pandemic, and loved ones that they've lost. So I really like this song. Didn't make the top 3 for me, but it's up there. I definitely like this new content, and it's kind of sticking with that Offspring classic type sound, which I really enjoyed, where they're not trying to get too experimental and they're just sticking with what works, and it worked for me.
Yeah, definitely. Locke says apparently the audio is not fixed. I don't know what's going on with it. I adjusted everything you said. Let's figure that out another day. Wicked is here. It says, hello, friends. Locke confirms apparently Dookie outsold American Idiot. We knew that. Redbeard says Dookie was so much better. Apparently we're having a Green Day debate instead. Dookie, 19 million compared to American Idiot, 15 million. At least it wasn't 21st Century Breakdown. Whoa. Pump those brakes. Because that's a good album. But again, that's another podcast. Oh, no. We're going to have a Green Day podcast one day. It should have been today, because today is 420. And Green Day, if you don't know, marijuana. It's a drug. Don't forget to bring a towel.
Hey, those towel shoes. Did you see that?
I did see that. That is so obnoxious, but I want them.
Yeah.
I would never wear them, though, because I wouldn't want to damage them. They would be just on display, and it's such a bad purchase. I'm not doing it. Don't worry, Andrea.
Just your stash.
Yeah, right. That's... I'm so high right now. Yeah, so you knock it off with the 21st Century hate. That's Wicked says, I like this. This is awesome. And yes, Locke, we'll do some more testing. We got to figure some stuff out. His settings must be off, liking 21st century. Whatever. Moving on. Army of One. This reminded me of a very late 90s, early 2000s pop punk and alternative track. Maybe think of Green Day. I'm going to not use them as an example anymore because you guys keep being stuck on that. It also reminded me, and call me out if this is just kind of throwing it out there as an example. It reminded me of like Queens of the Stone Age. In like a weird way.
I can see that.
Like, I don't know what it was, whether it was just the bass or... Because the one thing that I really took away from this was the heavy bass tones and the driving drums. And if you've listened to Queens of the Stone Age, that is a lot of their music. Just very fast-paced and just quarter notes. A lot of quarter or eighth notes. You know, you're just really moving along. I don't know how else to describe it. Feels like a ride from the start and never really deviates from the flow, which can be a good and bad thing here. Dark tone again lyrically with sadness and depression, thoughts of being alone. Kind of the tone in the world on lockdown. But again, I said it never really gave the impression of that being the specific topic, but it touches on that. So again, this is that continued narrative here from both of us where they're playing with the surface of things, but they're not committing. So I guess sometimes that's fine. You can maybe be more relatable if you leave it on a surface thing. That way it connects with and resonates with more people. Maybe that's why they approached it that way. I don't know. Thinking about that makes sense. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Our next one here is track 5 on the album. Breaking These Bones, coming in at 246.
All right, let's start with you this time. What did you think of this one?
All right, so for this one, oh man, I wasn't ready for this. I was not ready for this. What a fun drum intro with jazzy, fast-paced swing here. If you know anything about me, I am a sucker for jazz music. I love anything big band, swing, jazz, anything that has a lot of percussion. I myself, back when we were talking about being in band geeks, I started on trombone, but ventured into percussion and marching band, and then even got to be the drum kit player, the drum set guy in pep band or jazz band, and just anything drums, absolutely love, and still do to this day. I'm a percussionist through and through. So for me, you kick off a song with the jazzy stylings, I'm going to be hooked. I don't care if you just curse at me the entire time or speak on some dumb stuff. I'm hooked. The bass really accompanies the drums well on this track. The classic chorus style from them here, though, which is the only side effect of this song, it sadly seems like a chorus and a sound we've heard before. The verses are the best parts of the track. I said decent to okay guitar solo in the bridge to make note of here. It's nothing to write home about for top guitarists, but it's something of substance. And the lyrics again continuing the narrative being alone and depressed, so the theme continues here on this album.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just kind of picking up from Army of One and going into this. It's very similar. Like you said, the intro is a little different. That's one thing I do like, I guess, about Offspring is that they bring some of that Latin flair sometimes. They bring some different things that you don't expect as far as horns and different inspirations that you can hear in their music. And this was one, like you said, that starts off that way. I actually misspoke. I was reading my notes here from Army of One. The Breaking These Bones is the one where they actually start to talk a little bit more about grief. Well, Army of One is more just focusing on you can get through this on your own. You can do this and overcome anything. So this one is where they kind of touch more on grief and hence breaking these bones. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah.
So I really like this one. Still wasn't top 3 for me, but the two together, classic Offspring sound, which after hearing their last album 9 years ago was very much welcomed.
Yes, most definitely. I would probably put this in my top 3 or 4 for the album. Again, I'm a sucker for the jazz stuff. Anything that has that, I'm going to be... if you don't know anything too, Panic at the Disco, a lot of their stuff is kind of like that with the, big band, swing and jazzy type stuff. Not all their stuff. They've changed their style over the years. But it's one of the constants in their music that is somewhat there. And I just love that stuff. I love jazz. So our next one here, track 6, coming for you, 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Do you want me to go first again?
Sure.
So this, we spoke on the album. There hasn't been an album since 2012. We spoke on the Joe Exotic thing, but this was the single that was actually released in 2015. So this song has been out in the wild for 6 years at this point. And I'll be honest with you, I did not hear this song until this album.
Same.
So, that's a horrible oversight. But it's one of those things, a lot of times it's not always best. And I know this is kind of the approach in music today is to do more EPs and just singles because it's hard to put out a successful album now, right? There's more money in singles, and iTunes kind of changed the landscape of things because you no longer have to buy albums for a song anymore. Even though singles existed on compact disc and tape, you could buy them. But generally, people were buying full albums for a song. Now you can just buy the single and move along, and bands were losing money this way. So it's...
Do you want to start
We got a host here. Thank you for the host, Diamond. So for me, like, I just want a full album. Give me a full album. I like something, let's say if it's every 3 years they release something, and at the 1.5 year point, give me a couple bonus tracks, and then remaster your last album as a deluxe, or include it as an add-on for the next album. But 6 years, and then this is the single from 2015 that gets put on there? Interesting.
Yeah.
However, I do have to say it was a worthy add to this album. So don't get any of that stuff off as me saying it's a negative, because it starts off, again, with a fun swing beat on drums. Very Queen and Arena Lock-like, so I had, hints of that, just kind of big sound, right? This would sound great in a bigger stage. Reminded me of, we got a redemption here from Diamond. Let that play out. Thank you for the redeem. Me, she says. It reminded me of 2000s drum and bass from like AFI. So there was kind of hints of AFI. We got another redemption from Diamond. Thank you for the redeem. So even to more emphasize the fact of the AFI influence, it has the crowd chants in there. Green Day did. So many bands did. AFI did. A lot of the, how do we get the crowd to go, hey, along with you? Like, it's kind of cheap pops, almost pandering in music, but it exists for a reason because people get into it, right? You're going to do it at a live show after you've had a few beers. You're going to be excited. I'm pointing at you because when you go see Offspring, you're going to do it. So I said, plus so many more from the era. This track is fun all the way through. It's a throwback to mid-2000s of that style. Political conversation here with them coming for you was like an influence, lyrically, them as in politicians coming for you. Really good guitar solo on the bridge. If you're into AFI or Green Day, it was really reminiscent of that. Again, this is a constant comparison here. Remind me of stuff from American Idiot era, possibly one of the best tracks on the album. So yes, it's become comical now. They've been in the conversation tonight. But I mean, this is what I thought of immediately when listening to this. So.
All right, man, this is where we're going to disagree for sure.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I mean, like you said, this was released in 2015. I hadn't heard it in 2015, just like you. And when I heard it, I was just it felt very cheap to me. I don't know. Just the lyrics were, sold out, blowout, Donkey Kong.
Okay, that's not a great.
It's pretty corny. So lyrically, it was kind of a bummer for me. And then to the fact that you just put a track from 2015 onto this album right in the middle of it just seemed kind of strange too. Like maybe added on the end as a bonus track since you've already released it before. But it just felt like it kind of broke up the album from where it was going before. So I agree, the drums, love the drums in this song, and it sounds okay enough. It's catchy, but again, it's just hard for me to get on board with the sound. And I know if they had released the album in 2012 that I wasn't thrilled with, and they released this in 2015, I would have been dreading this album coming out this year, just if that's the best they could put out in 3 years, just after hearing this song. So overall, it didn't work for me, and it felt like an odd fit into a 2021 album when they released it actually 6 years ago.
Yeah, I get that. And it's one of those things, if I had heard it back then, maybe I would have had a different opinion. You said you hadn't either, but obviously we have different opinions. And again, it's I think this is where our interests also in styles. For me, the first thing I listened to, and this is surprising, I wanted to add review of lyrical content because it's a conversation that I have with Andrew a lot in music. I am not one that focuses on lyrics first. I'm generally lyrics second, or even later down the line. I am music first. If it has something that, tickles my ear, I don't know how else to describe it. If it has that thing that I like, I'm going to be into the song. As I listen to it more, then I start to pick up on the lyrical content and maybe analyze the song itself. There are a lot of bands that I'll listen to just for the music that I just find the lyrical content atrocious, or even childish. And yes, this is not the strength of that song. Lyrically, it's not the strength of the song by any means. And you mentioned that them adding this on there is kind of cheap. The thing really to take away too, if we're analyzing the full album, this is not my final review yet, but I do want to touch on this. We have 12 tracks, right? So you take that track away, you have 11 new tracks. But you also have a song on here, 2 songs really, that are interludes. So you have 9 new tracks. But then you have a piano version of an original 97 single. So you only have 8 new tracks on this 12-track album. That's a problem. That is an EP.
Yeah,
So,
no. I come in my final review, as you mentioned, as you kind of touched on, it's just, it's essentially 8 new songs.
Yeah.
So leave that as.
Go ahead. I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
We'll leave that as it is for now and just kind of touch on it at the end.
Yeah, consider this the halfway, kind of like foreshadowing what's to come with our final thoughts. So, Justin, we never have sex anymore.
I know we don't.
We don't. We just don't. Mostly probably because it's only 3 minutes and 30 seconds in length. That's my joke for the day. You're welcome. Do you want to kick this off or do you want me to start?
You can go ahead.
All right. So I'll take this one to begin. Hold on. Ready? What am I doing? What is this?
Spirit fingers.
What?
Spirit fingers.
Well, isn't that
Jazz
jazz
hands?
hands? Jazz hands, thank you. Diamond with the O face there. Jazz hands. I love jazz. So already, Locke gets it. This is a fun track musically. This is what I gave as my example leading into this is just that. Fun track musically. Immediate swing jazz rhythms. It gets you, your foot tapping. You're really grooving. You're juking and jiving, whatever you want to call it. Grandpa needs to go to bed. The breakdown and build into the driving chorus is fantastic. They deliver the expected tone again here in the chorus from Offspring, though. That's, again, the only kind of like downer. It's all right. It's the Offspring in the chorus again. But we're experimenting a little bit, and it's fun. The addition of what you played, like a trumpet. Mambo number 5. You get it. Fills out the studio quality mix and really adds to the track. The trumpet solo, and correct me if I'm wrong here, they were using mutes to get that sound?
Yep.
Okay. That was cool. Really unique sound. Obviously utilized in 20s for the roaring 20s for when Locke was growing up. It really kicks this track in the bridge with the snapping. Where that breakdown where everyone's just kind of Did you ever see Chicago? I think we've watched that a million times, haven't we? We even I feel like we've watched that together too.
I have not seen Chicago.
Really? I feel like we've watched that together. Locke hated that movie.
I'm going to agree with Locke.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to...
This might be the one and only episode. You should check out Chicago. It is a great film.
All right. Well,
You don't have to. I'm just giving my suggestion. Listen to the soundtrack at least. Maybe that'll change your mind. Maybe it'll swing your opinion. Or sway it. Anyways, so really like this track. The bridge with the snapping and build in the back is fun. I said Panic at the Disco has really incorporated this style well into their stuff. Queen, thanks to the hosts. And the Offspring, they did well with this here. They really did. Even Green Day has incorporated tracks like this throughout their years, with this style. I'm trying to think. Warning, Blood, was it Blood, Sex, and Booze? Is that the name off of that one?
can't remember offhand.
It's off Warning. If anyone wants to confirm that, check that track out. I could be wrong. Lyrically, this is a thorn in the side of what feels so out of place for the tone of the album. You could argue depression or aging with the track or drifting partners, but it still feels fun for such like a topical issue with, some couples as they age in their relationships are kind of drifting apart, emotionally or physically or however you want to describe. But lyrically, this song is out of place for the tone of the album thus far. That's really the only negative besides the expected like chorus sound of the Offspring for what was a fun experiment.
Yeah, I'm going to have to totally agree. This is a top 3 for me. Easily one of my favorites. And on my first listen through, this is the one that stuck out the most to me as far as just being different. Like you said, with that jazz feel to it. Definitely enjoyed the horns because from their other songs up until this point, it was nothing like that leading up to this. So again, it's very kind of a different sidestep. Like you said, that's the only really critique of the negative thing I have to say about this song. I love the muted trumpet solo in it, and the lyrics I felt were more appropriate for them, considering like going from before where they're saying during the Let the Bad Times Roll all the hell they're gonna raise, and I'm thinking you're in your 50s. You're not a lot of hell right now, so it's hard for me to really buy into that you're some 20-year-olds in a band that are trying to make some big statement. So this was just kind of like, oh yeah, they're aging musicians who are talking about their relationships in a funny way and in a really interesting track. It's definitely different from anything else on the album. I just thought it was very clever, and just really shows that they've been a band that's been around for 32 years, and this seemed like a very appropriate thing for them to sing about. And it kind of reminded me of like Pretty Fly for a White Guy, or yes. Why Don't You Get those kind of tracks where they're kind of oddballs from the rest of the album, but they really work. And I think this is definitely one of those ones that I'll listen to over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's going to be a track I go back to. I'll be adding this to a playlist that I rotate through for sure. It's just fun. So you speak on that point too. I really want to drive home that statement you made regarding, and just like that, it's gone. The fact of them being 50, right? Writing appropriate content. Of course, They're not going to write about their lifestyles of the rich and the famous, because why would they? Is that going to be appealing? And you find this as a theme, right? The irony of most is Good Charlotte with their careers. Holy crap, is their stuff ironic. But another example is like 50 Cent, right? He came out with a great debut album talking about the hardships he's endured and the violence he went through himself and being a survivor. How do you follow that up unless you're still living that life? Eminem is another great example. How do you follow up what made you, when you're so hungry and starving and you talk about hardship, but now you're a millionaire? How do you continue that narrative and have it still kind of click with people? Be like, no, wait a second. Lifestyles of the rich and the famous, but you're married to, famous people now, or you're rich now, or like you have all the things you complained about. So it's almost like hypocrisy to their content.
Yeah.
And not
That's
saying
why they said live,
Right. And not to say that the Offspring has had a lot of hypocrisy in their lyrical content, but for this track specifically, it's more fitting for the peak of what we knew them for, I feel, going back to what you described of that period of time, a more fun time and a less serious tone. Because are they going to stand on this hill right now politically in the climate we're in? Is that the direction we're going with the band at this age and this time? Is that what we want and need? Apparently they're making those statements in the album, but they're not, again, committing. So it's just interesting. Going to chat, Locke says he hates the movies. He's going to cut me. He likes The Greatest Showman, Hamilton, and Rent. And All Better. What's All Better? The Alerts? Are those all better? He says you talk about... Say that again?
All better than Chicago.
Oh, they're all better. Okay. I'm like, did the Alerts fix them? No, I didn't do anything. No, Chicago's fantastic, and it's okay to be wrong. You talk about how your Bentley dealer can't get you the ride in red. Yeah, exactly. Like the lyrical content. I don't know. It's just interesting. Shall we move on to our next track?
Couple more.
All right. We're almost there, guys. Stick with us. We're already longer than the album. Track 8. Be prepared for this one. I hope you're ready. Buckle up, because you're going to laugh at me. Maybe not. In the Hall of the Mountain King, it's an instrument. You can laugh at my botch there. Instrumental track. It's a minute. I was doing laundry when I was listening to this portion of the album, and this came on, and I thought my kid hijacked my Google Echo, because I'm like, why are you playing the Sonic cartoon theme song? Did you ever watch that show, the Sonic?
Yeah, Chili Dogs.
Yes. Was this not the song that was played?
I mean, this song's been around since 1875.
Exactly. So... And I didn't make that connection. I connected it to Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
Times.
I say here, I am a musician. I was in band. I was in jazz. But I didn't make a connection from a classical piece of music. I connected it to Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
Sad.
And it's not the bad Sonic, Locke. That was a fun Sonic cartoon. Oh my god. So yes, my notes here were immediate thought that this was from the Sonic cartoon. It was. I did look it up. Not their version, obviously, the classical, and I think it was a remix even for the cartoon. But it is a piece of orchestral music composed by Edvard Grieg in 1875 as an incidental music for the 16th scene of Act 2 of Henrik Ibsen's 1867 play Peer Gynt. Gynt, I don't know how to say that. So I is dumb, and this is in my notes, verbatim. So I is dumb and thought, video game cartoons, woo! This serves as a fun interlude track on the album, though. A fun rendition, but not really much to write home about. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought it was a great cover. When I played it for a friend who had mentioned that The Who does a cover of this also that they do during concerts. And so he played that version for me, and I'll say that I liked the Offspring version better. It was just faster, more, to the point. It was a different take. Definitely has that pop punk flair to In the Hall of the Mountain King.
Yeah.
Definitely worth checking out, but it seemed just kind of like a filler for the album. It was just kind of out of place. And I guess it's something that they've been doing at their shows for decades, just between. And they decided, hey, let's just throw it on an album, which is great for fans that want to hear that, and they have to go to a show to do it, which they haven't been able to do lately.
Right.
So, but in the meantime, it's just kind of like, oh, that's one of your songs off of your new album. And, it's an interlude. It's not like they're trying to own it as a full song,
right,
and make that it isn't. But overall, I really liked it, but was disappointed that it was on a smaller album, that this was one of those tracks.
Yeah, and I think as we get closer to the conclusion, or when we give our concluding thoughts, this is going to be brought up again. To hop over to chat real quick, Chicago, that has Cell Block Tango. Yes, it does. You should check that out. So fun, so fun. There was a Disney version called the Spellbook Tango. Chicago as in the group or the musical. Batman says, hey there. The other one was so much better. Chicago the musical. The band Chicago is amazing, says Locke. Yes. We did was that your freshman year? Or were you not there yet when we did Chicago for marching band?
No, never did Chicago.
Okay.
We did St. Louis, Toronto.
No, like the Chicago songs. Not like a trip.
Nope.
Like 25 or 64. So
nope.
I think that was one of the first years, Because you were 2 grades behind, right?
I'm a super senior, you know.
Hey, we all can't be super. But yeah, you were 2, so you would have came in probably the year after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
This one done.
Say it again, you cut out.
I think that's when we had Blister in the Sun.
Okay, yeah. Trying to remember what else. Batman loves Chicago, the musical, seen it 3 times. Thank you, somebody's a fan. Tried to see that when you're in Vegas, but couldn't. I actually got to see it on a cruise ship. That was a lot of fun. Still haven't gotten around to watching that one, assuming you mean cinematic adaptation. The cinematic adaptation of Hugh Jackman. Yes. Okay. Track 9. The Opioid Diaries. 3:01 in length. I'll do one more, then I'll kick it back over to you.
Sounds good.
This is 90s Offspring. This track, you can easily say that and understand that. If I were to give you this song, you would immediately recognize it as being the Offspring. Upbeat punk beats driving them into the chorus. Classic chorus style again from them on this track. The track slows during the bridge back into a nice build for the last verse and chorus. The lyrics feel somewhat fitting on this one with issues on drug abuse and depression. And Sean, we hope you get help.
Someday.
Yeah. Which, if you listen to the lyrics, you get what I was referencing there. For those that don't, they're like, who's Sean? Sean P.
He knows.
He knows. That's it.
So for me, the Opioid Diaries, this, like you said, 90s Offspring, feels like the modern take on The Kids Aren't All Right from Americana, where they're like, you know, teenagers aren't growing up to be what they were promised to be. And this is just kind of a commentary on the pharmaceutical industry and how, you know, America is addicted to opioids right now. So it was a good song. Didn't make my top 3, but it's a solid song. It's a good Offspring song, but nothing that really stood out from some of the other tracks that I liked a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, the placement, too, on where they have it in the album. Generally, you want your bigger... At least it used to be, obviously, with tapes or CDs, you wouldn't be able to skip ahead without fast-forwarding your skipping track. You want to hook people with the first few. Then you venture deeper into an album. A lot of people do that, but some obviously jump to certain tracks or jump around or hit shuffle. For me, I was always front to back like a book. I want it to play out if they're telling a story from front to back, and that's how I listened to this one as well. I didn't shuffle it, I played it front to back. So at this point, it makes sense, the placement, that it's so late in the album. It is not one of their better tracks. It is a decent track. It exemplifies the styling and sound of the Offspring. But again, this one is not something that I'd be like, yes, go to this one first. No, not by any means.
No.
All right, our next track, Hassan Chop. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Take it to you.
All right. So this definitely made the top 3 for me. This is definitely the fastest song on their album. Love the way that it kicks off. And, you know, I wasn't familiar. I was just like, Hassan Chop, it sounds familiar. So I looked into it, and it's actually from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. So it dates back to 1957, where they had the Alibaba Bunny. So I had your stereotypical Middle Eastern character who was a guard for a palace, and he would say Hassan Chop, and that's how the album is titled. And for me, again, it's a really short track, really fast song. Really loved it all the way through. This, I feel like, is their most political song on the album, but I also feel like it's something that could have been released 15 years ago when, you know, we were starting the war on terror and all that. So I really enjoyed the song just because of its fast pace, high energy. This felt like really refreshing to hear from the other stuff on the album. Again, I liked some of the other stuff, but this one just kind of had everything where it's like, if you're going to go into the lyrics and start talking about, you know, invading Middle Eastern countries and how, you know, the USA's God is the only God, and we're going to kind of make these other people bend at our will. At least they fully committed to it throughout the full length of this song. So yeah, this one is definitely a top 3 for me.
I'm really pleased that you did the research on it, because it was something I noted but never did. Because I'm like, that is from something, clearly. It's not something they just made up. It could have been. But I recognized it from something. I grew up on classic Bugs Bunny stuff, so I probably saw it. I don't remember it. But I was like, what is that from? I know this, but why? So I'm glad you did your research. You did your homework. That's impressive. Look at this man. Look at him. Bask in his glory. Fast-paced punk, very early Offspring style here. I feel it again. This is really something they wanted to go back to with the gap in this album release they had. They wanted to deliver this style early fans wanted again. They said a short track that just drives punk beats into the ending bridge of the song, which slows with a nice guitar solo, then drops to bass and drum and back into the main flow of the track, heading into the chorus, ending it. Lyrically, also very topical, as you mentioned. War, religion, pride of the USA, how we resolve conflict, or how we've dealt with conflicts with other foreign nations. And yes, I agree 100%. I was like, okay, topical, but it's 2021. Is it still, of course it's still topical per se, but really felt out of time and place. Because again, like, what is the stance here? What are we making as a statement? What inspired this song? And we don't get enough to really figure that out. So I found it interesting. It was a good song. I would probably put this in my top 3 or 4 as well. It's fun. It's a good track. The jazz ones, jazz hands, those beat it out just by a little bit. But a great song. This will be in a rotation for sure. Gone Away. As mentioned, this is a piano version of the original 97 single. Comes in at 3:16. I'll have you take it away.
Yeah, so like you said, this was from 1997's Ixnay on the Ombre. And so I did a little bit of research on this one too, because honestly, when I was listening to it at first, I was thinking, wow, this is a cover of something.
That's what I thought too.
And then I looked into it and I thought, man, I know this song from something. And then, I know it's because it's theirs.
Yeah.
So I felt like, wow, should have known that. That seems pretty dumb. So I'll own that one with your Sonic the Hedgehog thing. So looked up, found out that it was their song, and then I actually found out from, I guess interviews with the lead singer that it's something that they've been doing live as well, just with piano and slowing it down and performing for the audience. They said the audience really seemed to enjoy it, so they wanted to include it in the album. So again, this was kind of one of those filler songs. Not sure why it was necessarily needed. It felt like it could have been on a B-sides or an acoustic version, like an album, but I can at least appreciate they kind of added it on at the end.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of throwing it in the middle like they did with their 2015 song. So yeah, I mean, I would say I liked the original better after listening to the slowed down piano version that this song is. But I mean, vocally, I really enjoy the vocals on this song. I thought the vocals were a little bit better than the original one, but I missed the overall beat from the first one, because the first one, the beat the beat drives a little bit more, and it just kind of speeds up the song. And even though it's sentimentally, a song that is different for them, it's still okay in a faster version. So I didn't really feel the need to slow it down.
Yeah. So for this, I as well did that thing, and this was I was finishing. I was still doing laundry during the initial playthrough of this. The kids were outside playing. I was doing laundry, so I had a moment to really focus in on this album, the first playthrough. And I did the thing too. I'm like, is this a cover? Why do I know this? Is this Yellow Card? I'm like, who is this? And then I looked it up. And I'm like, well, I'm an idiot. This is them. That's why I knew this. Because I was like singing along. I was like, how do I know this? Like, why do I know this? But it doesn't sound right. Not that it sounds bad. It just didn't, like, what is unique about this? And again, it's a cover. what I said with Gone Away was after such a majority of fast-paced content, the album slows here almost into an outro. At first, as mentioned, I was taken back by this as I thought it was a cover, and I knew it before. However, again, it's a piano version of their own work. It's a great ballad. The piano sounds amazing. So however they did their mix on this, it sounds great. And the accompanied strings on this one, anytime you have strings and piano together, you draw an emotion. You immediately, if you like that style of music, but they work well together. Piano and strings accompany each other incredibly well. And they nailed it here. And holy crap, I know I speak on the signature styling or chorus work from Dexter, from the Offspring here. You can point him out of the crowd, not to mention he's a tall man with unique blonde spiky hair, but you can pick him out of a crowd because of his voice. You know immediately, as mentioned, Offspring has a sound. But wow, this track showcases he can sing, not just do his yell, I guess. I don't want to take away from his vocal ability, but he can sing. The album exemplifies sad lyrics, death, grieving, and you really feel the emotion of this track as you exit this album. I thought it was a fantastic ad. Did we need it? No. Could we have used a brand new song instead? Of course. But I'm glad it's here because then we have it, much like the interlude one from earlier in the Hall of the Mountain King. So it's fine that it's on here. It's fine if it wasn't. I'm just glad it's here. We have our final track, which serves again as an outro of the album. Lullaby, clocking in at minute 12. I'll just continue my narrative here, then I'll kick it over to you. We are met with melodic guitar and strings. This is album slows to an end. Lyrics echoing the lyrics of the title track. Gives off a reflective feeling of everything we just listened to, as it's just a short track. And really, there's nothing to speak of here. It's just something they mastered in studio, and it's just echoing the name of the album as we digress.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. It just felt like an odd outro to an album. I mean, there are some albums that do that really well, where they can kind of do some different takes on some of the songs that they've done throughout the album and kind of mix them into the final track to make a really cool sounding outro. And in this one, it was just kind of like minimal effort. And again, just felt like more of a space filler. And, like you said, a minute and a half, it felt totally unnecessary. And like you said, with the power of the song before, being slowed down and, piano and just it being an emotional song for them, which they don't have many of as far as like deep meaning to some of their songs. It felt like they could have ended with the last song. So the outro felt totally unnecessary.
I would have shifted some things around. I would have placed Gone Away as the final track on the album and moved Lullaby up maybe earlier and then adjusted In the Hall of the Mountain King a little earlier too, as you segued between some of your faster and slower songs, have interludes there, and then end with Gone Away. That's how I would have shifted things around. Like you said, it's weird to go from a ballad to an outro that's slow, but yet different in tone, reflecting on an album when the previous song was not even on that album per se.
Yeah.
So, with that, I'm going to speak on the worldwide people that get paid to review albums, the critical reception. So Let the Bad Times Roll received mixed reviews from music critics. At Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 to reviews from mainstream publications, the album received an average score of 54 based on 6 reviews, so 54%, which if you're in school, that's a failing grade. Indicating mixed or average reviews. Wall of Sound scored the album 9 out of 10, stating it was one of the punk world's best releases of the year so far. That is a quote by them. Who would like to have the honor of going first to share their final score and critical reception of what we just spoke on as a whole?
All right. I'll go first. That's fine. So for me, I'm going to say this Gringo Bandito hot sauce, definitely 8 out of 10. I don't know if you've had it before, but the lead singer of The Offspring, Dexter, has made his own hot sauce brand. It's actually been around for, I think, 17 years now. So it's really good. Definitely check it out. This stuff goes great on eggs for the green stuff. And also the red stuff, I would say 9 out of 10.
Can I do a shameless self-plug here real quick?
Go for it.
So you have been a guest on one of our shows before. You were actually a part of, and I personally invited you out because of your interest in hot sauce. I wanted you to do the hot sauce challenge with us, which was a holiday episode. What was it, 2 years ago? It was the end of 2019, right? So before all the crap in the world went down, we had made plans to link up at least a few times a year, and then this happened. So that was super unfortunate because honestly, that was one of the favorite episodes we've had in the long run of doing these type of podcast shows. We had a large panel of people, and you were one of the honorary guests. And long story short, we all made it through all the hot sauces. It was a very proud moment. A question for you, though. I did give you all the hot sauces. Did you end up using them and trying them after that?
I had some other people try them, and some people are pretty weak. Let's just say that.
That's awesome. So we are better than them. Haha. If you're a listener, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at you. But that's awesome. I'm glad you kept that going to other people too and watching them potentially be tortured. So that's
Always fun.
Kind of evil, but hey, it's fun. I mean,
Right.
you didn't force them. You just encouraged.
No, have a way of suggesting things that make people make bad decisions.
You do,
Right.
because you actually suggested this album for us to review. So you had a way of doing that, and I didn't fight it, so that was interesting. So you do have a way of influencing people. Shame on you, using that to your advantage. But let's hear it. What do we got?
All right, so I gave my hot sauce review. So overall, I would say I'd give this album a 7 out of 10. I really wanted to rate it higher, and it was difficult because for me, I mean, there are songs that I really love of this album. For Hassan Chop, for We Never Have Sex Anymore. It's just hilarious, great song, totally different from anything else on the album. But like you said, that cool jazz sound, which is different for them. They've always had that Latin mix from some of their earlier stuff, and then this felt like they were fully going in with the horns, which is great. And then Behind Your Walls was a nice, kind of like gone away for me, as far as like actually having great lyrics, good meaning in the song. Army of One, good driving beat. Breaking These Bones, another one, very solid. There are only a few that I really didn't like. Coming For You in 2015. It's just the lyrics were just too bad for me to overlook, even though I had a good beat and good chorus and felt really out of place. So, as we kind of touched on it earlier, really only 8 new tracks, considering they had a cover in there, they had a song from 2015, and they had, the interlude song. And then I can't count the outro as anything. It's nothing. So, overall, I love the sound. I'm so glad that they went back to their sound from the 90s and early 2000s and really owned that and didn't get anything too bizarre, aside from like the weirdest song is one that I love the most, which I can definitely not say about their 2012 album.
I mean, yeah. So I know I said 7 or 8 for you, so I'll consider it a birdie for myself. Not quite par. That's unfair for me to make.
So bogey.
A bogey. Oh, come on. Give me a birdie at least. Jeez.
Well, birdie implies that you did better than. I don't know. I'll give you par.
Okay, fair enough. Now you had predicted what for me? Did you say 7 or 8 or
8?
You had predicted 8. Do you want me to start with the score, then give my breakdown?
Up to you.
I'll leave you in suspense. Let's have fun with this.
All right.
So we are far removed from the younger, funnier approach to lyrics of the Offspring you may know or remember. A very serious tone and approach, almost like channeling their early approach to creating an album. Whether it's them being older or the world in a different place than it was, this album really delivers an upbeat depression. For the most part, the album is something you can easily replay, especially with its short length. The singles are the standouts here for me, with other notable tracks musically like We Never Have Sex Anymore and Gone Away, which again was a previous single by them. I would give this album a 7 out of 10. So, again, it's fun. It's a fun album. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to loop the whole thing. I'm definitely going to pick out certain tracks to add to a playlist. And I may venture back into this album and listen to those other tracks every now and then. But really, just the standouts are going to be, obviously, with technology now and Spotify with the ability to create your own playlists, which I do every year. That is something that I'm going to pull certain tracks out of, as noted.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Hassan Chop and We Never Have Sex Anymore, there's a few songs in there. In the Hall of the Mountain King, that's going to be, something that you can just throw on any playlist, and it's just a good interlude between songs. So, yeah, it's great for that. But as a whole, I was just hoping for more new content, which kind of what brought.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint here. If I had to really highlight a negative, it's the short length and lack of content. In some of the stuff I read on Wikipedia regarding, the build to making this album, the conversation on creating an EP, you could tell that was heavily considered. Regardless, we have a new album. It's here. You can listen to it. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's on Google. Really, anywhere you consume your media, you could probably find this album. It's not going to be difficult to obtain. Hell, it's even... Go ahead. I was going to say YouTube, yes. So if you don't want to pay for it, the whole album's on YouTube, including music videos. So honestly, go check it out. I encourage a listen to it. A lot of the highlighted tracks, definitely give those a listen at least once. If it's not your style, that's okay. We all like different music. There's so many options out there. And with that being said, we're going to continue this show every 3 weeks on Tuesday nights right here on the DNA Twitch channel at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we've already kind of been discussing our next pick. And that, should we go with that? Should we commit?
I say we commit to it.
Okay.
I'm afraid to commit to it, but let's do it.
With hesitation, we're committing to Van Weezer as the next album we're reviewing. A little bit of quick backstory on that. It was supposed to be released last summer, heading into their tour with Fall Out Boy and Green Day. Yes, again, Green Day comes up again. Here we are, back to Green Day. But those 3 acts were going to go on tour, Fall Out Boy, Green Day, and Weezer, and it was supposed to be the Hella Mega Tour. And I had tickets to it in Detroit. Oh, I'm so angry because we don't even know if it's going to happen again this year safely. And even if it does, how is it safe yet? Like that's the biggest question for concerts. So
yeah,
I just hope we can get to a point because I miss live music. I generally see, I don't even know how many concerts a year. The last concert that you and I went to together was actually Weezer. So this is kind of fitting too for us to be our next pick.
Yeah.
I just miss live music. Love it, love it, love it. So that's a little bit of backstory. It was supposed to be released last year. It's being released this year with the impression that they are rescheduling the shows for this year. So Locke says in chat that sure is a name. Do you understand the influence though, Van Weezer? Do you know the influence, Justin? The name?
I don't.
So it has been said in an interview, Rivers Cuomo has spoken, and I'm not going to quote because I don't have the quote verbatim, but he has spoken that fans have been asking and really getting into their live stuff when they kind of improvise and do some like little heavier stuff and change their songs a little bit. So he's reacting to live stuff by incorporating a little bit of heavier guitar styling, and he wants to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen. So this album is in honor of more guitar work and a tribute to Van Halen, which one of the greatest guitarists ever, which was actually another show that you and I went to.
Right.
One of the greatest shows. So the connections here are crazy when you think about that.
Yeah. No, I thought you were referencing the Hella Mega Tour. I thought you were saying how did he get the name for that? But
Oh,
no,
okay.
I thought that's what that was about. So, yeah, those were hella pricey tickets too. So I passed on that, considering. But I don't know. I'd be got some cheap enough.
It's one of those things. I know you saw Green Day at MSG, right?
No, so I saw Green Day.
I thought you went to MSG to see them.
Oh, sorry. Yes, MSG. I thought you said MSU.
No, Madison Square Garden.
So yes, Madison Square. Yep, saw him at Madison Square Garden, and that was. I'm trying to think. That was back in 2011.
Yeah.
And then I initially saw them in the pop punk disaster tour.
Yeah, with Blink.
Disaster tour, when they were playing with Green Day, and yeah, so Green Day just stole the show there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm mixed them up. That's when I saw Green Day and Blink-182.
Yes.
I'm thinking. So this is obviously just adding Weezer. But no, so Weezer at Riot Fest, and then, but yeah, Green Day at Pop Disaster and Madison Square Garden. So
yeah, I've seen Green Day a few times. I've seen Fall Out Boy once. I've seen Weezer with you. So these are all acts I've seen. The reason that I wanted to go to this show so bad, it is Andrea has seen Fall Out Boy, but she has never seen Weezer, and she has never seen Green Day. And I have talked up Green Day so much live that I'm like, you have to see them once. You just have to. Because they are one of the best live acts, at least back then. I don't know. It's been a long time.
for sure.
It's one of the best live shows that you'll ever see. Van Halen, another one. I speak on that every time I talk about, my top 5 favorite concerts. Van Halen killed it. That show was electric. Literally.
Yes.
It was amazing. So these are these concerts that I'll forever remember. And I've been to hundreds of shows. But these ones are standouts. So I was like, we have to go see this show. It's at Comerica. It's 3 bands that we all like.
Yeah.
What's a night out for whatever we paid. I don't remember, but it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't expensive either because we're not like super close either. It's Comerica Park. So I just want to be there. It's one of those things. So yeah, Batman, go ahead to host. It'll double. Get your points. And then I'll segue to our closing thoughts while you host. If there's a delay, we'll wait for the thing. So yeah, this will be a reoccurring show. The mRNA podcast stands for Music Reviews. This is a war. This is a war. Thank you for the host, Batman. Get those points. The Music Reviews Nerd Acumen podcast. Tuesday nights are podcast nights for DNA currently. Rotating through, we have every 3 weeks a theme show reoccurs. What does that mean? Well, next week is the dosage. We're going to be talking about the year 2000 in video games, notable releases, things that came out, things that were innovative, things that we remember, things that we hated. We're also giving away an Xbox Series X or S or a PS5 during that episode to our raffle. So a lot of things to tune in for. The week after that is our movie podcast. So the RDNA podcast. These are so many acronyms that you guys have to remember, and I apologize. And it's tough for me to remember. But RDNA stands for Real Dose of Nerd Acumen. Real like the movie Real, where we keep it real. Slogans. You got to have them. They're terrible, but you got to have them because people remember terrible stuff. So, But that is the current format for Tuesday nights. And the next movie that we're going to review on that one is the Super Mario Brothers movie in all its glory. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, tune in. And if you're definitely interested in music, Justin will be back in 3 weeks with me. We're going to be reviewing Van Weezer. Any parting thoughts today, sir?
For me, again, it's just it was kind of a welcome addition to the Offspring for me. It was I'm very satisfied with this album, aside from the recycled stuff. Really love that they stuck with their sound, and the stuff that they did differently was a hit for me. So I understand why it's getting some of the low scores it's getting from reviews. But again, it could just be because they're not fully committing to being a political band, yet they're trying to start to touch on some of those issues a little bit, late in their career. I mean, obviously they've had some political songs about gun violence and all that, but yeah, overall, I was very satisfied. I'm glad I listened to it, and it's definitely something I'll go back to over and over.
Definitely. And it's also one of those things you got to consider. It's 2021. The industry is changing. The critics are changing. How do they review? What do they find appealing? It's one of the most difficult industries to be involved in is the music industry. People's taste buds change faster than zebra stripe gum's flavor lasts. So it's the best example I could give on the fly. But in all honesty, though, my parting thoughts are this was a fun throwback. We have a long history as friends, and the biggest standout was our ability to come together always to suggest albums or songs or bands to each other. That has been a constant over these 20 plus years. We're always recommending something, and we always talk music. I don't have very many people that I converse with on this level regarding music, especially something that we're going to be honest about too and be like, that's not good stuff, man. Or that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with me. Because we both have bands that we probably love and hate of each other's interests. So, because our styles do differ greatly, but we have such an eclectic and variety of stuff that we're interested in. Except for country. I don't dabble with that. Sorry, country fans.
We're good.
Yeah, no reviews of that here. But other than that, it's been a pleasure, having you on, and I look forward already to our next show. And hopefully, listeners, chat, everybody, hopefully you're looking forward to it as well. Check out the latest album by The Offspring, and make sure May 7th, Van Weezer, check it out, because we're reviewing it May 11th? Whatever that Tuesday is. Don't quote me. But be here, regardless. Tune in tomorrow night, brand new episode of NAW, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well on Thursday, Friday, nothing on the schedule. Look for pop-up streams. Turn on your alerts. Saturday, Locke returns with, he was playing something. Locke, can you confirm quickly before you exit? I know you put it on the schedule and I should have memorized it, but I did not. I apologize. While you do that, Sunday, the next episode of the Nerds of Wrestling podcast with Cody and Trevor. Well, minus Trevor, Cody and a guest. Trevor is out this week, so tune in Sunday for that. And then hopefully Monday night, if all the stars align, they debut of GTA role-playing by Cody. So It Takes Two, Locke said, this Saturday night, 8 p.m. with Smalls. The GTA role-playing next Monday as well, making that debut. So a lot of content every night of the week, except for Fridays. Turn on the alerts because something might happen. We're figuring out Fridays. But with that, thank you. And I wish all of you a wonderful night. Take care.